Hey everybody, my apologies for getting started a little bit late. We were trying to be tricky tonight and having Drill and a guest that I'm going to talk about here in just a second on tonight with us. And unfortunately, technology was not our friend tonight, so we weren't able to hook it up. But I do want to spend some time real briefly talking with you what's going on. Drill, hopefully we'll get a message to him. Hopefully he'll be able to call in maybe and talk with me over the regular phone lines. But as we always do, this is In Touch with the Miller Boys, your weekly talk show where we discuss all things impacting the African-American community of the city of Fresno, the larger surrounding areas. Hopefully you guys have got us. I'll be checking on your comments tonight as we're going through this to be able to respond to them in real time. As I always start every week, please make sure you get your census completed. Go to 2020census.gov to get that information completed. Or you can go to census2020.gov. Either way will get you to the census site so that you can make sure that you log in and add your name so that you are counted. As they say in the Church of God in Christ, you don't want that roll to be called and not be counted. And so I want to make sure that we all understand the importance. We've got state and federal funding that is distributed every 10 years based off of the numbers that are collected into that system. If we have 1 million people in Fresno County and we only log in, only 700,000 of them complete their census, then when the money gets divided up, they're going to send us money for 700,000 people. Although we're at 1 million, we have the needs of 1 million people. So please make sure that you go to census.gov to complete that form. Like I said, it takes less than 5 minutes for you to be able to complete that. The other component that I always talk about is making sure that you're registered to vote. There's a website, it's vote.org, I believe it is. Let me check this real quick. And there's a way that you can register or check what your registration is right now. You log in your information, yes, vote.org. If you log in your information in there, it will tell you whether or not you are actually registered, what address you're registered at. And so that's very, 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 very important with this upcoming election to make sure that you are getting the proper ballot and that you understand what the rules and regulations are. Here in California, everybody will get their ballots mailed out to them. 100% of us will get our ballots mailed out to us the week of October 5th. And you'll have until November the 3rd to get it turned in. And so, as I told you guys last week, all the messages that I've got coming out right now is telling people to vote in October. Do not wait until November 3rd to be counted, to get your ballot cast. You may wind up waiting in a long line. There's all types of things that can be happening. If you wait till the beginning of November to send your ballot in the mail, it may not be counted because of all the interference is being set up right now with our postal system. We already have mail that's being delayed now because of the coronavirus. I keep saying coronavirus, but the coronavirus, COVID-19, and people being out and the workforce with the mail service being depleted and not having replacements coming in. So there's all kind of issues. So when you get your ballot the week of October 5th, you should target to get it out of your hands by October 15th. And if you need help, you can always email, I would say talk to your friends first, your family and friends, but you can always email different people, including myself, if you need help about understanding what's on the ballot. Remember also in California, with the vote by mail, when you get that envelope home to your house after you complete your ballot and put it back in the self-stamped envelope, there's a big box at the bottom. You must make sure that you sign in that big box. And if you give your ballot to someone else to turn in for you, there's a secondary box at the top of the envelope that you have to sign in that box as well. Anybody in California that's a registered voter can turn your ballot in, either by putting it in the mail or taking it to one of the drop boxes or actually taking it down to the election office. And so when I get my ballot around October 5th, I'll make sure that before I send my ballot in, I may even do it on air. Now that I think about it, I may even use that as an example to be able to show people how to get that done since I don't have a dummy ballot. But anyway, vote in October. Don't wait till November to vote. Please vote in October. So with that, our surprise tonight that we was trying to to arrange for you guys is that Gerald and I have been very, very, very extremely blessed to have our father in our life for all of existence. So today is my dad's 80th birthday. So Harry Miller turned 80 years old today, and I was hoping to be able to get him on. We're trying to hook up technology where we can come in and have him kind of share some of his stories of a lifetime and things that have gone on with him. Maybe we'll get better at it next week, so we can maybe chime in next week to get him to come in via technology to be able to do that. Because those of you who know my dad, he's done a lot of things. Went through poverty, extreme poverty as a young kid with my grandmother. My grandfather passed away when my dad was 11. My dad is the oldest of 6 children. He was the oldest of 4 when my grandfather passed away. My grandmother got remarried and had 2 additional kids. And so my dad has always been the head of the household, and he is a true Leo. Those of you who know any Leos, have Leos in your family, born late July, early August, you guys will know what I'm talking about. He is a true Leo. And so he has a tremendous amount of stories. Spent a couple years in the Army after graduating from Edison High School. Came back and went to Fresno City College, played baseball and football there at Fresno City College. Earned a football scholarship to Fresno State. Went on and graduated from Fresno State. Went to work for the recreation department. Spent 36 years, I believe it was, 36 or 38 years, something like that, with the city of Fresno, working in the recreation department. Retired in 1990. I think it was no, I'm sorry, that's not right. He retired in 2000, not 1990. In 2000, he retired, and immediately he was called to the ministry and became a minister, where he's served for the last 15 years as a senior pastor at Fresno Temple Church of God in Christ. And so that's kind of a synopsis, and I want to have an opportunity to kind of talk with him and allow him to fill in some of the blanks in there. Being born in Dumas, Arkansas in 1940, transitioning to California as a young kid. I think he was 5 when he got here, or 6. I'm just kind of talking about the transitions that went on with that. My grandfather passing away at an early age, how that impacted him, some of the mentorship that he received growing up. And so hopefully we'll get an opportunity to do that next week. Hopefully technology will work a little bit better for us to be able to have those conversations. And everybody's telling him happy birthday. So yeah, so we had a good time with him this week. On Saturday, we had a family dinner. We couldn't do a party like we wanted to. We originally had planned to do something huge for him. And of course, with the virus and the restrictions we got going on right now in Fresno County, it whittled down and whittled down and whittled down. And so we catered in food. We had dinner with our immediate family. Where else did people call from? Colorado, and a lot of people here locally in the California, not just in Fresno, but in California. Friends and family were able to call in and wish him a happy birthday, and he was able to see that actually on Zoom. And so that happened on Saturday. Today we had cake and ice cream with him, with the immediate family again, actually to celebrate him, and he's happy. My mom was happy. She wasn't able to be with us on Saturday, but she wasn't able to participate in the celebration on Saturday, but she was there tonight, and she's overjoyed also with us being able to honor her husband of 56 years. So they've been married a long time. I tease them all the time that they've been together longer than they were with their parents. And so thank you for all of those of you who wish my dad a very happy birthday. He's still celebrating. It's not done yet. You don't always get to 80. When my grandfather died, I think he was 44, 43 or 44. And I remember when my dad turned in his early 40s, he just knew that God was going to take him home. And he was quite a mess there for a little while. Once he got past that and was able to get into the second phase of his life, it became a lot easier to live with. But thank you. So Uncle Sam, I got you. I'll give you your love. Aaron Lawrence, my man Steve Moyer. I'm happy for you chiming back in. You and I left off last week on a conversation when we were talking about the coronavirus and the effects of it. And then I think it was either that night or the next day is when we found out that the Pizza King passed away from his corona infection that is attributed to him attending the the president's rally in Tulsa. So those of you who don't think this virus is real, please rethink and recalibrate what it is, wherever you're getting your information from, because this virus is impacting us. And yeah, people will downplay it and say that it's only killing about 1% of the population or affecting about 1% of the population. And so I would ask those of you who have large family members, if you could afford to lose 1% of your family, which one would you volunteer to be taken in an untimely death? And I don't think anybody would want to be put in that situation. And we as a country shouldn't want to put anybody in that situation. Yes, death and disease is natural. It's a natural occurrence. But we should be doing everything we can, in particular when it comes to death from disease, to mitigate that as best we can. And I know that there's so much more that we can do. One of the big debates, those of you who know me know that I've been in education for the last 30 years. I'm actually running, I've been sitting on the Fresno County Board of Education as a trustee there for the last 18 months or so, 16 months. And I'm running to retain that position right now. And one of the big conversations that keeps coming up right now that everybody's talking about is opening of schools. And it goes back to that debate. What is more important? Opening schools for the good of the economy and stimulating the economy and getting people back into their normal procedures, or the safety of the people that are participating in educational settings all across the country? And that's the tug of war that's going on right now. And depending upon where you are on that ledger, I then go back to, if you're talking about sacrificing people, which one of your family members, which one of your children, which one of your parents, your grandparents do you want to give us to sacrifice as we go forward to open up our economy and open back up our schools? The good thing about, some people kind of look at me kind of crazy, I think that one of the positive things that's going to impact or have an effect on education with this coronavirus is it's going to force those of us who are in education to reconstitute ourselves. Our educational model has been in existence now for about 100 years. I keep saying that and not doing the research on it, but I need to go back and find out exactly when this model of education that we have, which I believe was at the turn of between the 1800s and turning into 1900s. This model that we use of going to school in the morning at 8 o'clock and basically being done every day at 3 o'clock, being being educated by curricular subjects, the face-to-face teaching in a classroom setting. I think that this coronavirus is putting us in a position where we have to really, 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 truly rethink the way that we're doing things. One of the biggest inventions, two of the largest inventions ever to impact the United States economy was the cotton gin and the steam engine. And right now, we do not use cotton gins or the original cotton gin, and we're not using steam engines anymore. And why is that? Because we've evolved, we've gotten better, we've used technologies and other resources to make ourselves more efficient, better equipped, more safety has been involved in it, and I think we need to do the same thing with our educational system. And stop band-aiding some of the issues and concerns that we have right now in public education. Those of you who have children in school, whether it be K-12 or whether it be in higher education, especially if you have college students, you'll notice that when we shut down in California and we had to shelter in place with Governor Newsom's decree, higher education, community colleges and universities were able to pivot pretty rapidly. In a matter of about 7 to 10 days, they were able to pivot to go to distance learning, online learning and instruction. And I won't say it was seamless, but the bumps that they had transitioning to that type of format was pretty much bump free. Well, those of us in K-12 education totally was unprepared for where this pandemic has put us. And so, you've got reports of teachers not responding and follow up to students. Those teachers who were diligently reaching out and trying to contact their students, you had some of the students and parents who were not following through. In the rural areas, outside of our cities of Fresno and Clovis and our metropolitan areas, so out in the Avenals and Five Points and Cantua Creek and places such as that, there was an issue with Wi-Fi accessibility. They do not have the cell towers out there, nor do they have the satellite capacities, the satellite technologies to be able to get students to be able to log on and be able to do distance learning. There's a whole, how can we as a thriving metropolis not be better equipped technologically to impact education? It would be good for business, it would be good for education, it would be good for entertainment. I mean, it goes on down the list that if we improve how we do things technologically here in the Fresno metropolitan area, which Fresno is the 5th largest economy in the whole entire world. Okay, not in the United States, in the whole entire world. California is the 5th largest economy, so it's got to trail United States because California is part of the United States. I found out today, or a couple of days ago, that California's economy is actually even larger than Russia's economy. And so when we have that type of resources, monetary resources and other types of resources, we have the Silicon Valley, which is San Jose area. Why are we still struggling with our internet? My cell phone, I can't have conversations, can't talk to people on my cell phone when I'm inside my house. Same thing with my parents' house. I'm at my parents' house. I've got to walk outside to be able to get a clear internet, or not internet, but a clear cell reception to be able to have a conversation with folks. Why in 2020, moving into 2021, are we here in the Central Valley still in those types of, or lacking those types of amenities? And so as we go forward, I'm hoping that this working through this coronavirus makes us in education really rethink the way that we deliver, in particular instruction K-3 and then 412, how we're delivering this model that we have. And so that's one of the reasons, for those of you who don't know, I think I mentioned it earlier, that I'm running for my position to retain my position on the Fresno County Board of Education. And those are some of the conversations that I look forward to having over the next 4 years, and be part of a process to be able to use education and the positivities that we're doing and working through education to be able to permeate throughout all of Fresno County for the betterment of all of us, for us here in Fresno and the metropolitan area around us. So enough about that. One of the other things that I wanted to talk with Gerald about is, those of you who don't know, I am a registered Democrat. I think it's pretty well known. But we've got these announcements that are coming up now. We've got word now is that on both sides of the ledger, the Democratic side as well as the Republican side, their national conventions, which should be happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks, are going to be all virtual. And the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party, former Vice President Biden, will not be attending the Democratic convention. He will be doing his acceptance speech from Delaware, which is where he's from, so he won't actually be there. President Trump and the Republican Party has also made similar intimations that that he will not be physically there at the Republican convention to give his acceptance speech as well. And so here we go again about people rebranding and reconstituting what exactly they're doing. I don't know what the historical record says, but I'd be interested to find out when was the last time that they did not hold a Democratic or Republican convention during the presidential year. Even in 1968 on the Democratic side, when we had all the riots going on there in Chicago, they were able to get through the convention. They had a bunch of bumps, but at least they were able to get through it. And so it's interesting. I have to look that up to, and I'll bring that information back to you. But so neither one of our 2020 candidates from the majority parties, Democratic side and the Republican side, they will be doing their acceptance speeches virtually. What does that mean? How are their parties going to respond to that? You've got the whole thing with who is Biden going to pick to be his VP running mate. You know, everybody right now, I think, is pretty well understanding that it is going to be an African American female who will be his running mate. And there's all kind of debates, and that's one of the questions and discussions I want to have with my brother, as well as my dad. I want to get his opinion on that also, since he is part of the baby boomers. And I'll get back to that too in a second. But I want to get his opinion also on kind of about the VP pick. But on the other side of it, the assumption is that the current president will keep his vice president moving forward. Is that actually the case? I haven't heard anything about it. Pence is, he's supposed to be helping with the task force, with the coronavirus task force. I haven't seen or heard very much of him lately. And so it'd be interesting to see if in Trump's second go-round with campaigning, if he's going to keep Pence with him as he's moving forward, or if he's going to transition and go to someone else. So there's lots of interesting things that are happening on there. One of the other things, I'm gonna see if I can find this article real quick, but one of the other things I talked about, and I've been telling people just from my readings, but it hasn't been actual an article or data to be able to support that, in the United States of America, there are more Americans under the age of 40 than above the age of 40 in more than 100 years. So the millennials and whatever the next generation that's under them, that's getting right at the voting age, 18, 19, 20 is the top end of that, whatever they're going to call this next generation, there's more of them than there are my generation, X and Y, and baby boomers. So that's very, very, very curious to me. What does that all mean? What I believe is going to happen is that we're going to have a changing of the guard, politically, socially, structurally. The old guard expectations and a lot of the ways that we've done things are going to be changed. So those of you who are into research, you can go to the Pew Research Center. There's an article for January 17, 2019, where millennials in and Generation Z begins. They talk about the numbers there. Let me see if I can find this other article that I just read. Anyway, I don't see it now. I'll have to find it. Here it is, USA Today. It's a USA Today article. It's entitled, "Sorry Boomers and Gen X, Millennials and Gen Z and younger generations are the new majority in the U.S." And it says that there is 166 million people under the age of 40 and only 162 million people 41 and above. So what does that mean after basically our political, social stalwarts have been out of the baby boomers generation? What's going to happen? I can tell you the baby boomers generation was a social group. They were very, very, very much about social circles. So community groups, wives groups, the Lions, Kiwanis, African Americans, fraternities, sororities, the Masons groups, the lodges, all those type of things. Whereas this new generation, the under 40 generation, those types of social groups is not their clique. They are galvanizing around issues. So LGBT rights, what's going on with Black Lives, the BLM movement, Black Lives Matter movement. I think there's lots of different, police reform, social justice, not social justice, but prison reform and what you're going on there. No cash bails. I mean, there's all types of issues right now. Student debt, which is a huge one. I know that it's kind of been downplayed right now. Not a lot of folks are talking about that, but student debt is another thing right now that students, the people that are under 40, are being inundated with. You got students who have gone to school to get their BA that winds up being $50,000, $60,000 in debt. If you think about that, that is a down payment and probably 10 years of mortgages on a home. You've got a lot of the under 40 generation who are waiting to have children later in life, in particular if they're professionals. They cannot have a professional career and be involved and engaged in a family at the same time. And so there's a lot of changes that is going to happen to affect the way that my retirement, when God blesses me to get to 80 years old, America is going to be very, 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 very different. How old am I? 20? That would be 26 years from now, 27 years from now. I believe the United States of America, in its position in the world, is going. The way its position is here, and where we do things, the way we do things domestically, as well as how we do things and how we're recognized in the world, is going to be very, very different. And so, God, please bless me to be the age of my mother and my father, late 70s, 80 years old, so that I will be able to partake and participate. And hopefully I can have a little bit of influence through some of the things that I'm doing to be able to at least help guide what's going to happen next. And so everybody, so those of you who are following along in our chat, my dad is actually listening. I guess he's watching. And he's an interesting dude. Last night I spent the night with him. Stayed over there last night because my mom has been having some difficulties during the night. So I stayed over there. And last night, you would think that an 80-year-old man who's lived as hard as a life and long a life as he have would be asleep early. But my dad was up last night till 2:30, and about 12:30, I guess he figured out that he was actually 80 years old, and he had a one-man revival in there in the other room, singing songs and praising the Lord and clapping his hands and doing all kind of stuff in there. So he kind of messed my sleep habits up. I'm usually knocked out cold at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, but last night I was up making sure that he was all right and keeping an eye on my mom. So thank you for all the birthday wishes, and those of you who want to wave at him, you guys can do that because he's actually, I guess you can't. He can't see you. So Pop, that's for everybody who's telling you happy 80th birthday. They are, want the God to continue to bless you. I say you need 80 more. You said no, you don't want 80 more. But anyway, so just want to make sure that I acknowledge those birthday wishes. Let me see if there's any other comments on here before I get out of here. So anyway, so please make sure, as I said, going back, stressing some things, and you guys are going to see some pivoting from me about this election. You got to vote in October. Vote in October. Vote in October. And if it's good for Florida to vote absentee or vote by mail, whatever term you want to use, then it's good for all the rest of the states and territories that participate in our federal election to do so as well. It's the safest way to do it. Yes, we can take care of the needs, but we, those of you who are procrastinators and wait to the last minute, you know what happens when you procrastinate. Either you don't, if you wait to go get them shoes, instead of going and get them when you see them, when you get there, they don't have your size or they're gone. They're all sold out. So don't wait. The same thing with this election. When you get your ballot mailed to you in California on October 5th, or whatever date it is that you get your ballot mailed to you in your other states, don't wait. Don't wait. Don't put it off till later. Get it done today. It won't take you more than about 5 minutes. If you don't know all the initiatives, and I'm going to talk about that also because we've got some initiatives in California, 3 in particular, 15, 16, and 17, and I want to talk about in depth. And I'll see if I can't get Gerald to buy into that maybe in a couple weeks. But I want to go over those 15, 16, and 17 in depth because they need to be addressed. And there's a lot of misperceptions and misunderstandings. Some of those provisions are worded in ways they're worded to confuse us on purpose. And so I want to make sure that I shed as much light and be able to direct you back to where you can go get that information for yourself to do your own homework. But we've got a lot of work to do between now and November 3rd to make sure that everybody's vote is, that you receive your information, that you cast your vote, and that your vote counts. So remember, you can go to vote.org, vote.org. I'm going to do that tonight to make sure, see where my registration is, although I'm pretty comfortable. But please go on there, and next week I'll be able to share with you hopefully a little bit better about what that website is all about, to make sure that you are registered at the address or the location that you should be. Please don't take that for granted because that's one of the voter suppression tactics that are done, is the misperception and misunderstanding. So also make sure that you get your census done. Remember the census, they have a date of October something to get your census information completed. Please don't wait. It's there. The website is there at the bottom of the Chiron. That one actually takes you to the actual website. Then you have a couple extra clicks when you go to that one. But if you go to 2020census.gov or census2020.gov, it will take you directly to the census link, and then it'll save you a couple extra clicks. But that website that was there at the bottom of the Chiron also will get you to that site as well. So we'll be back next Wednesday. Gerald's not feeling real well right now, so hopefully he'll feel a little bit better and be able to come into the studio with us next week. And hopefully we'll be able to get the technology working, because I still want to have a conversation with my dad so he can share with you his 80 years of experience, because that's something that I don't want to take for granted, because there's a lot of people that I know either because of illness or diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, or something like that. People haven't seen 80 years old. And then in my time, my generation, there was lots of people who were involved in, in the drug trade and wound up being incarcerated for long periods of time, or shot and killed, or died in an overdose, those type of things. And so lots of African American men were not able to be on this earth for 80 years. And so I want to make sure that, not just because he's my dad and I love him and I want to honor him as best I can, but I think that there's some insight inside of his 80 years of experience which would highlight and benefit all of us from hearing his story and listening and learning. So with that, KP, anything else I need to talk about? You sure? I mean, we're gonna have to do a trial run on Sunday or something with the technology to see if we can get it all hooked up, because I do want to have him come in there. So anyway, we're up against it. It's a couple minutes to 9 right now, so I'm gonna get out of here. I don't want to just blabber at you guys. Please make sure you register to vote. Check vote.org for your registrations. Please make sure you get your census completed. Census 2020census.gov to get that completed. And then also make sure you are ready to vote in October. I know the election date is November 3rd, but elections are changing. Coronavirus, as I talked about, affecting education and all these other areas. Coronavirus is also affecting how we do elections. And so with this election, when you get your ballot, you need to get it out of your hands and into the mail, or dropping it off directly so that you make sure that your vote is not delayed, or it's postmarked too late, or any of those type of things. But anyway, we'll get back into that as we get a little bit closer. Like I said, I'll bring in an example to be able to go through it with you guys. So until next Wednesday, God bless you all. Be safe. Love one another. And again, this is another episode of In Touch with the Miller Boys on Wednesday evening. See you next week. Bye.